An abandoned mail-order bride helps heal a lonely cowboy, but never expected he'd repay her with love. The planet Red Hollow was not a kind place. It was dry, dusty, and full of hard land that did not forgive mistakes. Strong winds blew almost every day, carrying red sand across the wide plains. The sky often looked faded, like it had forgotten how to be blue. Only tough people stayed on Red Hollow. One of those people was Elias Boone. Elias lived alone on a small ranch far from the main colony town. His house stood in the middle of empty land, with only a few fences, some old machines, and a small herd of livestock around it. He didn't talk much. In fact, most people in town said Elias had forgotten how to talk properly. He only came to town when he needed supplies, and even then he kept his head down and his words short. Some said he used to be different. Some said he used to smile. But that was before the war. Now, Elias Boone was just a quiet cowboy on a dying world. Far away from his ranch, a cargo shuttle landed at the colony's docking station. The loud engines faded as the ship settled into place. A group of people gathered nearby, waiting. It was a mail-order bride shipment. On Red Hollow, life was hard. Many settlers came alone, and over time, loneliness became just as dangerous as the land. So, some people ordered companions from off-world. People designed or trained to survive harsh conditions and help build a life. This shipment had 5 women. 4 of them were quickly claimed. Men stepped forward, checked their data, signed the contracts, and left with their brides. But the 5th woman stood alone. Her name was Van. She was different from the others. Her skin had a faint pale glow, almost like soft metal under light. Her eyes were silver, calm and observant. She stood still, holding a small travel case, watching everything around her. Hours passed. No one came for her. At first, people thought there was a delay. Then they thought maybe there was a mistake. By evening, whispers began. Maybe her buyer backed out. Maybe she's defective. Maybe no one wants her. Lyra heard the whispers, but she did not react. She simply stood there, waiting, inside the docking office. The dockmaster checked his screen again. "That's strange," he muttered. A worker leaned over. "What is it?" "She's paid for," the dockmaster said. "Full amount. No delay. No cancellation." "Then where's her man?" The dockmaster sighed. "Elias Boone." The worker blinked. "That quiet rancher?" "The same." They both looked outside at Lyra. Still waiting. Still alone. "Maybe he forgot," the worker said. The dockmaster shook his head slowly. "A man like Boone doesn't forget. He just doesn't come." The sun began to set. The sky turned orange, then red, then dark. Still, Lyra stood there. She had been designed to endure long waits. Her body did not tire easily. Her mind did not panic like a normal human's might. But something inside her, something not part of her design, felt uncertain. She had been sent here for a purpose. To help. To build a life. To belong. But how could she do that if no one came for her? On the 3rd day, the dockmaster finally sent a message. A short, simple one. "Your order has arrived. Come collect." At the Boone Ranch, the message sat unread for hours. Elias was outside, fixing a broken fence. The wind pushed against him, throwing dust into his face. He ignored it. He worked slowly, carefully, like a man who had nothing else to rush toward. When he finally went inside, he saw the blinking message. He stared at it for a long time. Then he sighed. "Damn it," he muttered. Elias arrived at the docking station just before sunset. His old crawler made a loud, rough sound as it pulled in. People turned to look. It wasn't often they saw him in town. Lyra noticed him immediately. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the way he walked, slow, steady, like someone carrying something heavy inside. Maybe it was the way he didn't look at anyone. Or maybe it was because, deep down, she knew that was him. Elias stepped out a crawler and walked toward the office first. "Boone," the dockmaster said. "You're late." Elias didn't answer. He just signed the data pad. Then he turned and walked back outside. Only then did he look at her. For the first time, his eyes scanned her quickly. No emotion, no smile, no curiosity. Just to check. like he was confirming she was real. "You coming?" he said, his voice low and rough. "Or you staying?" That was all. No greeting. No apology. No explanation. Lyra looked at him, then at the empty space around her, then back at him. For a brief moment, something inside her hesitated. This man was not what she expected. He was cold, distant, closed off, but he had come. Late, but he had come. So she stepped forward. "Yes," she said softly. The ride to the ranch was silent. The crawler moved slowly across the rough land. Dust followed behind them like a shadow. Lyra sat beside Elias, watching the world pass by. Broken land, dry fields, old structures that looked like they might fall apart at any moment. "This place is difficult," she said after a while. Elias didn't look at her. "It is." "Why stay?" He paused, then shrugged slightly. "No reason to leave." Lyra nodded. She didn't ask more. When they reached the ranch, the sun was gone. Only a faint light remained in the sky. Lyra stepped out and looked around. The place was worse than she expected. The fences were damaged. The machines looked old and barely working. The house felt empty, even from the outside, but she did not show concern. "This will be sufficient," she said. Elias gave a small, dry laugh. That's one way to say it. Inside the house, things were quiet. Too quiet. There were signs that someone lived there, but barely. A cup left on the table. Tools scattered around. A chair that looked like it had been used too much. "This is your room," Elias said, pointing to a door. Lyra stepped inside. It was simple, clean enough, empty. She turned back. "Thank you." Elias nodded once. Then he turned away. That night, Lyra did not sleep much. Instead, she observed the house, the sounds, the silence, and Elias. He moved slowly, like every action required effort. He spoke little. He avoided eye contact. But there was something else. Pain, not fresh, old, deep, and heavy. The next morning, Lyra woke early. Before Elias, she stepped outside and looked at the ranch again. Broken systems, unfinished work, neglected land. She understood. This place wasn't failing because it couldn't survive. It was failing because the man who owned it had stopped trying. Lyra walked to the nearest broken fence. She knelt down and began to fix it, carefully, quietly, without asking. Inside the house, Elias woke up later than usual. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. For a moment, he forgot. Then he remembered. "The girl," he muttered. He stood up and walked outside. And stopped. The fence. It was fixed. Clean. Strong. Better than before. Elias frowned. Then he looked further. Another system. Working. A machine repaired. He turned slowly. And saw her. Lyra stood near the barn, adjusting a panel with precise movements. Calm. Focused. Working. Elias watched her for a long moment. Then he muttered, almost to himself, "What did I just bring home?" And for the first time in a long time, the silent ranch of Elias Boone felt like something had changed. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. The ranch began to change, not all at once, not in a loud or dramatic way, but slowly, quietly, like something waking up after long sleep. Each morning, Lyra woke before the sun. The sky would still be dark, and the cold wind would move across the land. But she did not mind. Her body was built for harsh worlds like Red Hollow. She started with small things, fixing broken tools, cleaning old equipment, repairing fences one section at a time. She worked without asking for instructions, without waiting for permission. Elias noticed everything. He just didn't say much. On the second day, he saw the water system running smoothly again. On the third day, the livestock looked healthier. On the fourth day, one of the old farm drones, which had been dead for months, suddenly moved again. Elias stood there, watching the drone hover slightly above the ground. "That thing was finished," he muttered. From behind him, Lyra spoke calmly. It only required recalibration and part replacement. Elias turned slightly. "You just fixed it?" "Yes." He stared at her for a moment, then nodded once. All right, that was it. But for Elias Boone, that meant something. Days turned into a week. The ranch kept improving. And something else started to change, too. The silence. It wasn't gone, but it wasn't as heavy anymore. Sometimes small conversations happened. Simple ones. Food is ready, Lyra would say. Elias would nod. All right. Fence on the west side is unstable. I'll check it. The animals require more water. Yeah, I notice. They didn't talk much, but they started to understand each other. One evening, they sat across from each other at the table. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of wind outside. Elias looked at the food in front of him, then at Lyra. You cook too, he asked. Yes. He took a bite, paused, then another. This is good. Thank you. He nodded again, then kept eating. It was a small moment, but for the first time in a long time, Elias did not feel like he was eating alone. Lyra observed him carefully, not in a strange way, but in a thoughtful way. She noticed how he avoided certain rooms, how he stared at nothing sometimes, how his hands tightened when something reminded him of the past. She did not ask him questions. She did not push. She simply stayed. One afternoon, Lyra found something in the barn, an old, damaged machine, covered in dust. She cleaned it slowly, brushing away the dirt. As the shape became clearer, she understood what it was. A training unit, military grade, old, used heavily. Elias walked in and froze. What are you doing with that? He asked sharply. Lyra turned. It is damaged. I can repair it. No. His voice was firm, stronger than usual. Leave it. Lyra paused, then nodded. Understood. She stepped away. Elias walked closer to the machine. His hand touched the metal lightly. His face changed. Not angry, not exactly sad, just distant, like he was somewhere else. That night, Elias didn't come inside for a long time. He sat outside, looking at the dark land. The wind moved around him, but he didn't feel it. Lyra stepped outside quietly. She stood a few steps away from him. You are troubled, she said softly. Elias gave a dry laugh. That obvious? Yes. He looked at her, then back at the land. That machine is from before. Before what? He was silent for a moment, then finally said, Before I came here. Lyra waited. She did not interrupt. I wasn't always a rancher, Elias continued slowly. I was a soldier. Lyra listened carefully. The war? She asked. Yeah. His voice was low. Flat. I fought for years. Different planets. Different enemies. Didn't matter much in the end. He rubbed his hands together. They trained us to survive, to fight, to win. He paused. But they didn't train us how to stop. The wind grew stronger for a moment. Dust moved across the ground. I came back, Elias said, but everything else didn't. Lyra understood. Not fully, but enough. You lost people, she said. He nodded once. Yeah. Silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy, real. Lyra took a small step closer. You are still here, she said. Elias looked at her. That doesn't always feel like a good thing. For the first time, Lyra did something unexpected. She sat down beside him. Not too close, not too far. Just there. You continue, she said, even when it is difficult. Elias gave a small, tired smile. That's one way to say it. Another pause. Then he asked, Why are you here? Lyra blinked slightly. You order me. No, he said, shaking his head. I mean, why did they send you? Lyra thought for a moment. I was created to assist in survival environments, to support, to stabilize. That's it. Yes. Elias looked at her carefully. That sounds like a job. It is. Another silence. Then Elias said quietly, Feels like more than that. Lyra did not answer, because she wasn't sure. The next few days were different. Elias started helping more, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. They worked together, fixing larger systems, repairing the barn, organizing supplies. Hand me that tool, Elias said one morning. Lyra passed it to him immediately. Thank you. You are welcome. Small things, but they mattered. The ranch was no longer just surviving. It was improving, growing, becoming something stable. And Elias was changing too. He spoke a little more, stayed outside less at night, even checked on Lyra's work sometimes. One evening, he stood near the repair drone. You did good work, he said. Lyra looked at him. Thank you. For her, those words were new, important, but peace never lasted long on Red Hollow. Late one night, the alarm system suddenly activated. A loud, sharp sound broke the silence. Warning, perimeter breach. Elias was on his feet instantly. His body moved without hesitation. Like the soldier he used to be, Lyra stood up as well. What is happening? She asked. Elias grabbed his rifle. Trouble. He moved toward the door. Fast. Focused. Lyra followed. You should remain inside, Elias said. I can assist, she replied. He looked at her. For a moment, he saw not just a quiet woman who fixed fences, but something more, something capable. Stay close, he said. Outside, the night felt different. Too quiet, too still. Then, a shadow moved near the fence. Then another. Elias raised his rifle slowly. His voice dropped. We're not alone. Lyra's silver eyes sharpened. Her body became still. Ready? The wind stopped. The world held its breath. And from the darkness, something stepped forward. Not human. The night felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Even the wind had stopped, as if the planet itself was waiting. Elias stood near the edge of the ranch, his rifle steady in his hands. His eyes scanned the darkness carefully. Every shadow looked deeper. Every movement felt dangerous. Lyra stood beside him, calm, but alert. Her silver eyes adjusted to the low light, scanning faster than human vision could. There are multiple targets, she said quietly. 5, no, 6. Elias tightened his grip on the rifle. Yeah, he muttered. I see them. The figures moved slowly out of the darkness. Tall, armored, not human. Their shapes were sharp and unnatural, like machines built for war. Their armor reflected faint light, smooth and dark. Their movements were controlled and precise. The Krell Syndicate. Elias knew them, and that made things worse. Inside, Elias said quickly, Now. Lyra did not move. I can assist, she replied. This isn't fixing fences. Elias snapped. Go inside. The Krell stepped closer. One of them raised a weapon. A low humming sound filled the air. Elias fired first. The loud crack of his rifle broke the silence. One of the Krell staggered slightly, but did not fall. Damn, Elias muttered. Heavy armor. The Krell returned fire. A bright energy blast shot across the yard, hitting the ground and sending dirt flying. Lyra reacted instantly. She moved faster than Elias expected, pulling him slightly back just before another shot hit near his feet. You must reposition, she said calmly. Elias blinked. For a moment, he forgot she wasn't human. Right, he said quickly. They moved behind a broken section of the barn. Elias reloaded. Fast. Practice. You weren't built for this, he said under his breath. I was built to survive, Lyra replied. Another blast hit the barn wall. Wood and metal shattered. The Krell were advancing. Slow, careful, confident. They think we're easy targets, Elias said. Lyra looked at the approaching figures. They are incorrect. Elias almost smiled. Almost. All right, he said. We hold here. Don't let them get close. The next few seconds exploded into chaos. Elias fired again. This time, aiming for joints. Weak points. One Krell stumbled. Another adjusted its position. They were learning. They adapt fast, Elias said. Yes, Lyra replied. So must we. A Krell suddenly moved faster than the others. Too fast. It rushed forward, closing distance quickly. Elias fired twice. The shots hit but didn't stop it. Before Elias could react again, Lyra moved. She stepped forward and intercepted the Krell. Her movements were sharp and precise. Not wild, not emotional. Calculated. The Krell swung its arm. She blocked it. The force pushed her back, but she held. Then she struck. Fast. Direct. She hit the joint in its arm. A sharp crack echoed. The Krell staggered. Elias stared. What the hell? Lyra didn't stop. She moved again, striking the same weak point. This time, the Krell dropped to one knee. Elias raised his rifle and fired. The shot hit its head. It fell. Silence for half a second. Then more shots came. More incoming. Elias shouted. The remaining Krell changed tactics. They spread out, surrounding, closing in from different angles. They are coordinating, Lyra said. Yeah, Elias replied. Figures. A blast hit near Lyra. She didn't dodge in time. The energy struck her side. She stumbled. Lyra, Elias shouted. She steadied herself. I am operational, she said, but her voice was slightly weaker. Elias's expression hardened. Get behind cover. Instead, Lyra stepped forward again. I will create an opening, she said. Don't be stupid. Elias snapped, but she was already moving. She ran toward the nearest Krell, faster than before. The Krell fired. The shot grazed her shoulder, but she didn't stop. She closed the distance and struck. Hard, precise. The Krell fell back. Elias used the moment. He moved to a better position and fired again. One more enemy down. Left side. Lyra called out. Elias turned and fired. Another Krell dropped. Now only two remained. They hesitated for the first time. They are unsure, Lyra said. Elias nodded. Good. Let's keep it that way. The final two Krell attacked together. One fired directly at Elias. The other rushed Lyra. Elias rolled to the side, barely avoiding the blast. He fired from the ground. Missed. Lyra faced a charging Krell. She braced herself. The impact hit hard. It knocked her back. She fell. The Krell raised its weapon, pointed at her. Time slowed. Elias saw it. Too far. Too late. No, he shouted. But Lyra moved, faster than before. She grabbed the weapon arm and twisted. Hard. The Krell lost balance. Lyra rose to her feet. Despite the damage, despite the pain, she struck again. And again, until the Krell fell. Elias fired at the last one. A clean shot. It dropped. Silence returned. Heavy. Real. Elias stood slowly, breathing hard. Lyra stood a few steps away. Not steady, but still standing. You okay? Elias asked. I am functional, she replied. But silver liquid, like blood, ran down her side. Elias walked closer. He looked at the damage. His expression tightened. That's not okay, he said. It is acceptable, she replied. Elias shook his head. No, it's not. He paused, then said quietly, You could have stayed inside. Lyra looked at him. You would have died. Elias didn't answer, because she was right. He looked around the ranch. Broken walls, burned ground, fallen enemies, then back at her. Why? He asked. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Why what? Why risk yourself like that? She thought for a moment, then said, I was designed to assist. Elias frowned. That's not what that was. Lyra looked at her own hands, then back at him. I did what was necessary, she said. Elias stared at her. No, he said quietly. You did more than that. Silence again. The wind returned. Soft, slow. Elias took a deep breath. Come on, he said. Let's get you fixed up. Lyra nodded. They walked back toward the house. Side by side. The ranch was damaged, but still standing, just like them. And for the first time, Elias understood something important. She wasn't just there to help him survive. She was fighting beside him, like a human would. The ranch was quiet again, but it was not the same quiet as before. This silence felt different. It was not empty. It was full of what had happened. The ground still showed marks from the fight. Burned soil, broken wood, damaged walls. And near the fence, the bodies of the Krell still lay where they had fallen. Inside the house, Lyra sat on a chair near the table. Elias stood beside her, holding a medical kit. He was not used to this. Fixing machines? Yes. Fixing people? No. Stay still, Elias said. I am already still, Lyra replied calmly. Elias sighed. Yeah, I know. He carefully cleaned the damaged area on her side. The silver liquid had slowed, but the wound was still serious. You should have told me it was this bad, he said. It did not affect my function, she replied. Elias shook his head. That's not the point. Lyra looked at him. What is the point? Elias paused. His hand stopped moving for a moment. Then he said quietly, The point is, you got hurt. Lyra studied his face. There was something there she had not seen before. Not anger, not frustration. Something else. Concern. I am still operational, she said again. Elias looked at her. And I'm telling you, that's not what matters. Silence filled the room. He finished treating the wound as best as he could, then stepped back slightly. That's all I can do for now, he said. Lyra nodded. Thank you. Elias sat down across from her. For once, he didn't rush away. He stayed. The wind moved softly outside. The house creaked quietly. They'll come back, Elias said after a while. Lyra looked at him. The Krell? He nodded. They don't give up easy. We hit them hard tonight, but that just means they'll send more. Lyra processed that. How many? Elias let out a slow breath. More than we can handle alone. Silence again. Then Lyra said, We will prepare. Elias gave a small, tired smile. You say that like it's simple. It is necessary, she replied. He nodded. Yeah, that it is. The next few days were full of work. Hard work. They repaired what they could. Reinforced defenses. Set up defensive systems. Fixed weapons. Prepared supplies. But something else was happening too. Something quieter. Elias and Lyra were changing. They spoke more now. Not just about work, but about small things. Why do humans enjoy this? Lyra asked one morning, holding a cup of coffee. Elias chuckled lightly. Honestly, I don't know, but it helps. It is bitter, she said. Yeah, Elias replied. You get used to it. She took another sip. I will try. Another day. You should rest, Lyra said. I will later, Elias replied. You said that yesterday. Yeah. Small conversations. But they mattered. One evening, they stood outside together, looking at the horizon. The sky was calm. The wind was gentle. It is peaceful, Lyra said. Elias nodded. Doesn't last. Lyra looked at him. You expect conflict. Elias gave a small shrug. Experience. Lyra thought for a moment, then said, I do not. Elias looked at her. No. She shook her head slightly. I observe patterns, but I also observe change. Elias frowned slightly. Change. Lyra nodded. This place was failing. Now it is improving. Elias looked around the ranch. The repaired fences. The working systems. The stable land. Yeah, he admitted. Then she added, You were alone. Now you are not. Elias didn't answer right away, because that was true. That night, something unexpected happened. A storm came, a strong one. The wind roared across the land. Dust filled the air. The sky turned dark. Inside the house, the lights flickered. Elias checked the systems. They might go down, he said. Lyra stood near the window, watching the storm. It is intense. Yeah, Elias replied. Red Hollow likes to remind us who's in charge. The power went out. The house fell into darkness. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Elias lit a small emergency lamp. A soft glow filled the room. Lyra turned toward him. The light reflected in her silver eyes. It is quiet, she said. Elias sat down slowly. Yeah. They sat there, listening to the storm. Then, after long silence, Elias spoke. I didn't think this would work. Lyra looked at him. When I ordered you, he continued, I wasn't really thinking, just doing something to fill the silence. He paused. But you didn't just fill it. Lyra tilted her head slightly. You changed it, he said. Silence followed. Lyra processed his words carefully. I was designed to assist, she said. Elias shook his head. No, he looked at her directly. That's not all you are. Lyra felt something unfamiliar, something not in her programming. What am I? She asked quietly. Elias hesitated. This was harder than any fight, harder than any repair, but he didn't look away. You're someone who stayed, he said. Lyra's eyes softened slightly. Many would not have, Elias continued. But you did. Another pause. And I don't want you to leave. The storm outside grew louder, but inside, everything felt still. Lyra looked at him, carefully, slowly. I was prepared to be returned, she said. Elias shook his head immediately. No, his voice was firm, stronger than before. That's not happening. Lyra blinked. Why? She asked. Elias took a deep breath, then said the truth. Because I need you here. He paused, then corrected himself. No, I want you here. Silence. Lyra felt that strange feeling again. Stronger now, warmer, unclear. I do not understand this feeling, she said. Elias gave a small, honest smile. Yeah, me neither. They both sat there. Two very different beings. One human, one created. Both confused, both unsure, but both choosing to stay. The storm slowly began to fade. The wind softened. The darkness outside grew lighter. And inside the small ranch house, something new had formed. Not duty, not programming. Something human, something real, something neither of them had expected. And for the first time in a long time, Elias Boone smiled. And Lyra Venn felt something she had never been designed to feel. Not just purpose, not just survival, but something deeper. Love.